Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to wake the world up to what's possible, one brave word at a time. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the most amazing authors of a new book that we have coming out. Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 4, Transcendent Men, Real Stories. You guys, this is the fourth book in the series from Diana Leader, Find Your Voice, Save Your Life, and our very first all-male author cast from Brave Healer Productions. And we're going to be talking about the fact that we're the first all-male author cast here. I have some incredible men to introduce you to. I really wanted to say a quick, big thank you first to Diana Leader and Scott Holmes. You guys, thank you so much for getting this stellar group of human beings together and for being who you are with the mission you had with this book. I remember talking to Diana about this, you guys, like months and months and months ago before we actually got it together. And we had both been so excited and talked about this like, man, it's time for this. And again, we're going to talk about even what that means in a minute, but let me introduce you to David McLeod. He is a certified master life coach with extensive experience. David McLeod provides you with all the tools, techniques, training, and support you need to navigate your way through everything that comes your way so that you create and enjoy the life of your deepest heart's desire. Guy Kilchrist is the father of 3, grandfather of 4, lifelong student, and sacred friend. I love that guy. Patrick Fisher is with us. He is an intuitive, spiritual guide and healer. And Helm has been helping people step into their best self with counseling, reiki, and psychodrama. Is that the right word? Psychodrama? For over 40 years. All right, I just wanted to make sure. Oh my gosh, you guys feeling the power we have in the Zoom room today? All right, David, you're gonna start this party off. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
Well, hi everybody, and thank you, Laura, so much for hosting this and for having me on. And I'm just delighted to be a part of this amazing group of men. This book is, I think, going to change the world, and I don't often say that in a flippant way. I mean, I don't say it because often it sounds kind of flippant is what I really mean to say. And but I really think this is going to have a huge shift, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what happens. I had the good fortune to write chapter 13, and I always have to look because I never remember the exact wording of my title, but it's called The Sacred Carpet, On-Ramp to a Path of Transcendence. And you know, I remember when I was invited to participate in this, we didn't really have a title. And so a lot of the conversation had to do with, well, what are we really going to talk about? And I remember mentioning the word transcendence, and Scott seemed to get excited about that word, but I kind of regretted it because I thought, I don't think of myself as a transcendent man at all. I think of myself as just an ordinary guy who has gone through some pretty amazing experiences in life. And I believe I've reached a point now where I can consider myself to be approaching the stage of being wise. That is to say, some of what I have to offer people is, I think, of value. So yeah, that's really it. I mean, my story, or the book, I guess, it contains all kinds of great stories, and mine is no exception. But I couldn't come up with a single story to describe this path of transcendence. So I had to show my path in 4 little, what I call vignettes. So that's what I did. I just shared 4 major aspects of my life to give a kind of a picture of, you know, where I came from, how I kind of went through life, and how I found myself on what I now consider to be a path of transcendence. So that's my little story.
You're cracking me up about with your air quotes with wise. I think we should just go ahead and define right now that if you've been through a certain number of decades of life, you get to just call yourself a little wiser than normal. We can define that. I love it. David, you've been here before with me in prior projects. And I thank you for being back for this one, and really for being somebody who has motivated the group in terms of the mission. I think this one's going to be world changing as well. And there are a lot of reasons for that. And y'all are going to have some questions today that are going to help people understand why it is going to be. But I'm super grateful that you're back.
Thank you.
Guy, you're up next. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
Well, Laura, thank you for inviting me. And it's a pleasure to be here with Will, Patrick, and David. Real wonderful experience writing with a group of other men. It's not something I do often. Sometimes it's tough for men to write about things that are deep down, and so it was a great opportunity to write in collaboration with other guys. So I thank the Brave Healer team for that, as well as Diana and Scott. My chapter was chapter 2, and I titled it "Recovering Thou." And it was a wonderful, when I got the invitation to be a co-author, I jumped on it. I jumped in and I jumped on it really quick. And even before speaking with Scott, I just went in, threw my hat in a lot there. It was, the timing of it was really a wonderful opportunity, because I had been writing quite extensively for the prior 4 years and doing a lot of artwork on top of that. So I saw the opportunity to write the chapter, to write my story, and to participate as sort of a capstone event, because I mentioned the 4 years of writing I had done prior to stepping into this project, and it was, I felt it was time for me to move on from sort of the worldview, the heart view of the writings of the previous 4 years. And I saw this as an opportunity to kind of push me to sort of wrap up the writings of the previous 3 or 4 years into this chapter. And I have to say that it, for me as a writing exercise, or as a journey through my writing this chapter accomplished that. And I tried to at least close my chapter with some of the little epiphanies that I gained in the writing process for this chapter. The chapter that I wrote, I go back to 10 years old, and the relationship I had with my father, which was a really good relationship, but it's kind of like the relationship between a father and a son is, it is unique, much in the same way, perhaps from a mother to a daughter. And I looked up to my father a lot throughout my life, and that was a big part of the underlying foundations. But in many ways, I made a lot of decisions not in following his pattern or his way of thinking and doing things, but I made a lot of decisions to the almost consciously to the contrary of that, to sort of be my own person. And like I think all of us, we make choices and decisions, and some of them work well and some of them don't. And at least being able to look back and being able to look back and examine what was good and what was perhaps not good, what was the consequences of those decisions and choices, and where it kind of brings you through. And that's sort of how I try to work through my chapter, my story, and hopefully it can resonate a little bit with readers. So it was a wonderful experience, and absolutely everything but positive feelings throughout that. And of course, at this stage, or right before pre-publication, it's kind of like, wow, what I shared, what I wrote about, was the best of my truth, of my experience in life and my truth, and it's out there published. And it's sort of like, it's a pat on the shoulder on one side, but then it's a scary, fearful thing on the other, because it's there for mostly for eternity. So, but I'm looking forward to the publication, and the collaboration with all the guys were just wonderful. So I thank everyone involved, and that's pretty much where I'll leave it.
Well, I call those kind of fears the purpose-driven kind, right? That's a scary feeling, but you know that you were born for this. And I'm so glad you jumped into this, Guy.
Yeah. I'll say one other thing that, my experience that, I was close to my grandparents and they're all deceased now, and my father's deceased. But I sometimes think about questions that that I never asked them before about who they were, about what experiences they had in life and who they were. And now, now it's too late to ask them those questions. And one of the gifts that this book and this chapter is that my grandkids, 20 years down the road, they're too young to ask the questions today, but 20, 30, 40 years down the road, they want to know who their grandpa was. That my chapter is going to share a lot of that with them. And so it's kind of a future gift to them. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
I love that you said that. That's going to ring true for a lot of authors when they, realize that they're leaving some of their legacy there for people to read. When I know I've had the similar feelings that I wished I had asked more questions when, and now it's too late. And it's like, so we need to grab Amy Gillespie Doherty, talk about how to talk to the ancestors, because we could probably ask them some questions, even though they're past. Oh my gosh, we could talk about that for 3 hours. Okay, Patrick, tell me about your amazing chapter.
Hi, Laura. Hi, Will, Guy, David. Thank you all for being here. It's an honor and a privilege to be a part of this project. When I first connected with Diana, it was absolutely an answer to prayer, an answer to everything I wanted as an evolution, as a writer, and now as a co-author of this book. So it was an honor and a privilege to be a part of this. So when her and I first connected, I had a lot of questions, right? Like anybody coming onto a project like this, you have these reservations, what story would I really want to tell here? What do I want to accomplish from this? And what do I want to gain in retrospect, as far as from business stance from this? And everything led me intuitively. I took a few days, I thought about it, and it just kept coming back to this is all thumbs up, all intuition, everything felt good. So from there, I started doing a lot of thinking, like, how do I want to move along and tell my story, right? To have my voice. And that was sort of the essence of this project. I wanted to be able to use my voice that had been sort of taken from me in my childhood and start there, right? And then show the transcendence of my experience in life from a very honest and vulnerable perspective, meaning that I was writing with an open heart to try to show my experiences of what I had to go through to become who I am today. And that was a challenge. It really was, to sit there and be that vulnerable and say, I'm going to write this openly to a bunch of people that I don't know, then to have it published and be read by a bunch of other people that I don't know, and to have them, look at me from whatever their perspective, their lens is, based on my honest experiences of what I've been through in life. So from there, I wanted it to be a therapeutic process. I wanted to show the evolution of the hardships of what I went through in childhood and how that led to a preparation and a sense of wanting more in life. And through those hardships, it led me to preparation for the military. And so what that did was it was difficult, when you're a child and you're thrown in all these different environments. But then once you realize, it made me strong and it made me driven and it made me capable. And all those things were tuned in when I went into the military. And so from there, it became an environment of sort of over masculine energy, right? Where I become this person that I didn't want to be. I was so disassociated with society. I'd been through extreme trauma from multiple deployments in the military. I wasn't able to have my voice and still can't talk about a lot of things that I did in the military. But the things that I was able to write about, it was therapeutic, because I wanted to show you there's a humanitarian side of the military. When I went to Haiti, it was such an eye-opening experience for me. I was able to touch the hearts of all these people in the third world who were pummeled below rubble, their entire existence devastated, don't even know where your loved ones are, just got hit with a massive 8.0 earthquake. Everything you possibly know is taken from you. And so, to be 21 years old and thrown in that environment and be one of the people who was a force of helping to preserve human life and seeing, the devastating effects of mass graves with a bunch of people that you're throwing in there that you don't even know who these people are. So that was a lot to overcome and trauma. So I wanted this project for me to be something where I could show the change in everything you go through in the military to how you can heal post from that, from my spiritual journey. And that's what it led to, right? So the transcendence of going through the childhood into the military, still barbaric in nature, but some humanitarian aspects, to going into the self-love journey and what I'm into now and the way I try to help others as a humanitarian. So a lot of the things I was doing preemptively, writing for a blog, telling short stories, drawing in my audience, building my networking, it all led me up to this opportunity, and it all started to make sense. So this project to me, it was the capstone of everything that I'd sort of been working on from a memoir perspective up until this point in my life. So it was rewarding to be able to share that voice and to see and hopefully inspire others that are coming out, who are still young men coming out of the military, who've been through extreme levels of trauma, that, hey, you can still make it through this, and you don't need to be a statistic, meaning 1 of 4, living on the street homeless right now are veterans. So that, to me, I take that very serious. I take it very personal, right? Because when you're served with people who hold your life in their hands, you take that personal. So I want this to be something that can inspire others who, if they're going through a little bit of hardship and can find some connection and the human aspect, and it helps them heal and to grow. That's what I wanted from this. I wanted to show that God is real. He did speak to me. I wanted that to be a huge part of my book, because that was inspired my calling and my change and allowed me to heal on my personal spiritual journey. So with that, I just want to thank everybody for listening, for taking the time to hear my voice, to allowing me to have a voice again. And it was tough. It was tough to make it through, but I just wanted to reach somebody out there so they can know they're not alone. And that was when I said yes to this project, that was my personal goal. So thank you all.
Love it, Patrick. Thank you so much. It came up in our last interview. We talked a little bit about an underlying theme being helping people understand they aren't alone, no matter what situation they might be in. So I'm glad that you repeated that just now too. Okay, Will, tell us about your amazing chapter.
My amazing chapter came about as chapter 6, Finding the Pieces to Be a Whole Man. Came about kind of on a lark. I was musing near my 70th birthday of like, what am I going to do when I grow up? And along came this email, I think it was from you to my heart partner, looking for men for a book. And I responded to that and had an interview, and was like, I didn't think I had anything particular to offer, because what I've been basically doing was in the trenches helping people. And, the most writing I did was progress notes. But the reality of it was, when I sat down a timeline of my life and physically walked through my living room with the different decades of my life, there were things that came up that seemed important to share. And I feel like I got 17 more chapters to do because of what I found.
You do.
But for me, my journey was that of a pretty damaged kid from a lot of trauma. And by the age of 20, after 1 year, 3 months, 9 days, 3 hours, and 27 minutes in the military, they released me because of drug and alcohol issues and other things going on. So I left with a message that I was never going to amount to anything. But an opportunity to get clean and sober and to pursue a spiritual life came about. And that was the start of it. Opening my heart, finding emotional literacy to express what I'd been through, to seek things. And I was a seeker. I mean, back in those days, it was going to a men's retreat with 3 Native American men and a token white boy that were there to basically hold a retreat for guys to look at what their life purpose was, to learning about reiki, to doing psychodrama, to doing past life regressions, and more and more and more. Because every time that I found something, I would turn around and pass it to my clients. And between the institutions and private practice workshops and things like that, I probably worked with close to 30,000 people, and stories come up about their experiences. about supporting them to find themselves, to open their hearts. And so I realized I had some things to offer. And so I wrote the chapter to respond to something somebody said to me a long time ago. Maybe you have a book in you. And I think I found out that I do, and it's valuable kind of things. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share this experience with this community of men, and with your company, Laura, and the other people that are involved. It's an incredible push forward for where I like to see the world go. So thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
Well, thank you for saying yes. Thank you all, not just for saying yes, but for stepping up to do the kind of writing that we really wanted in this book, which was vulnerable. And that takes a warrior. And it's no small potatoes thing to me what you all did in your chapters. You all really stepped up like that. And Will, you definitely have 17 more chapters, probably more than 17. I don't know, but probably a few more books in you. You all do. We all do. And I think when the day we wake up to the fact that we're, the worthiness is important. Like what I have to share matters. And not just that it matters, but it could change somebody's life. It could save somebody's life. That's how big this is for me. So thank you all, for saying yes to the journey, because sometimes you sign up to write a chapter, but you're not even really sure what that journey is going to bring until you're in the middle of it and you really realize what this is. It's so much more than a book. And I want to say to everyone that's going to pick this book up, this is a book of all male authors that is for women also. And when you realize the gift you have in this book, it might surprise you if you're a woman, what amazing gifts are in here. You all helped me. This is just a personal thank you. You helped me by being vulnerable in your stories. You helped me by stepping up as the kind of men you are. And that was really important for me. It gave me a shift in perspective that I needed for my own healing, and to realize that I was surrounded by people who loved me, who cared about the journey and care about each other. It has been such an honor to be here with you all. So I just wanted to make sure to say that to you. This next question is for all of you. I'm going to start with Guy. Guy, what does it even mean to you to be a transcendent man?
It's a wonderful word, transcendent. And when we began the project and the conversation about transcendence came out, myself, like just about every one of the other co-authors, struggled with that term, because to think, and I'll speak for myself, but for me to think of myself as transcendent, it tends to bring me to a point of being an aspect of pride, a little bit too much pride, rather than a reality of who my true self is. So I struggled with that thought, but I went with it. I said, I'm not going to try to control Diana or Scott in their titling of the book. So what I did is I went to the dictionary and I said, okay, what does that mean, transcendent? And looked at several different versions. And the one that stuck in my head was a definition of transcend or transcendent. The etymological sort of background is to climb over. I said, okay, yeah, I can relate to that. I understand that. And to climb over obstacles in life, to climb over difficult circumstances, very difficult circumstances. This idea of not remaining the victim, to not remain a victim. And of course, in my life experience, and I'm sure most everyone else, we all encounter people who in their even elder years of life still claim some trauma from their childhood to be the reason why they're still stuck as a 50 or 60-year-old. And I that's a position that I don't want to ever be in. And I don't think anyone ever has to stay stuck in some difficult traumatic experience earlier in their life. So this idea of climbing over made sense to me. Now, from my own sort of perspective about transcendent, to me, and where I'm at in my stage in life, in my mid-60s, is not so much to climb over in as much as it is to climb down or to unbind from the things we have to grab for and chase in the first half of life. So it's this unbinding, this climbing down, and that's more in tune with my own spiritual sense and intellectual and emotional sense and state of life. So that's my sort of my own personal understanding. I can redefine transcendent to mean what it means to me, and that was the gift to that. So that's it's about all I can offer on that point. So thank you.
I like it. I like it, Guy. You weren't the only one that had to get the dictionary out. Wait, did we actually get an actual dictionary? I mean, that will age all of us if we say that we pulled the dictionary off the shelf instead of going to the internet. I don't know. Patrick, what do you want to add? What does being a transcendent man mean to you?
Yeah, I thought what Guy said was brilliant, quite honestly. A lot of it definitely resonated with me. So the way I would like to explain it is this, right? Life works in cycles. It's not linear, meaning that you wake up and you just push through all the things you were supposed to achieve and you die. No, it takes a lot of work if you want to achieve those things, those milestones. So within those cycles, right, that's where the transcendence is. Meaning some people, like Guy was saying, will get stuck within a cycle. Maybe they get stuck with trauma. Maybe they get stuck with pain that they're refusing to work through. Meaning, but his example was somebody who's 60 who's still blaming childhood trauma, can't progress past that cycle, right? So transcendence or transcendent men are the people who still go through, you know, these milestones, these hardships, the pain that others just want to kind of minimize or hide within. No, the transcendence is breaking through those barriers. It's overcoming that. So you move on to the next cycle in life, the next chapter in life, right? It's all narrative based. That's how life works. So transcendence for me personally is somebody who's willing to accept that life is challenging, accept that there's going to be difficulties, but instead of just minimalizing it or hiding away from it, no, you take it head on, you get through it, you overcome it. So that way you can share that wisdom to the next person who's coming up behind you, going through the same lessons, the same cycles that they're trying to break through in their own life. So that's what the picture I would like to paint. Transcendence could be anybody. Every one of us are capable of being transcendent, but that takes the work of self-healing, self-realization, self-love to break through that current chapter, whatever predicament, whatever obstacles you're going through, to evolve past that. That's transcendence, moving to that next chapter.
I love it. Thank you, Patrick. Okay, Will, what do you want to add to this? It's hard to go third and fourth, I know, but I mean, these are brilliant, brilliant answers. What else does it mean to you personally?
So for me, it's going beyond the ordinary. It's also about recognizing that there are other forces involved, that there's a divine energy that anybody can access, and helping people to be able to do that. But for me, it's described in kind of a gross way. It's like finding the pearl in the oyster. You go through some yucky stuff and then you get a gem. And there's a lot of yucky things in life, but there are also a lot of pearls. And so then it's what you do with those pearls. Do you pass them on to others? And I think it's very humbling to take a walk through my life and look back and see what has happened for me, to me, and how there's been things that I've been able to pass on to other people. Transcendence is quite a big process, and I don't know if we'll ever get it all wrapped down real nice, but there's a lot of wonderful meanings from all the authors in the book about transcendence. Thanks.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you, Will. Okay, David, what does it mean to you to be, you mentioned in the opening that you had resisted that word a little bit. So what does it started to mean to you now?
Well, first of all, I want to say I appreciate the answers that have already been given. I have two different perspectives about transcendence that I'll share in a moment. But in terms of my own personal experience, I am willing to own that I have definitely climbed over a lot of shit and found my way into a life that actually feels very, very supportive and fulfilling in many ways. Even though I don't have a lot of money, I don't have a lot of the, what do you call it, the physical possessions that people seem to associate with success. I don't have a lot of that stuff, but I consider myself to be very blessed in so many ways. So from that point of view, I do believe I have reached a level of transcendence. So I will own that. But the other two pieces I wanted to say first was the hero's journey, I think, is a perfect example of transcendence, although we don't see it that way initially, because you're going through life, you fall into a pit of some kind of struggle, despair, whatever it is, you learn some lessons, and then you come out the other side. To me, coming out the other side and bringing what you learned back into your community, that is the hero's journey. And to me, the tail end of that is the transcendent part. And then the other word that I would like to share, I have a friend who she doesn't even have to define it. She just says trans-ending. In other words, we're waking up to the truth of who we are. We're letting the illusions fall away, and we're becoming more connected to our ultimate, pure, beautiful spiritual nature.
I love that. The trance is ending, finally.
Yeah, I like that too. I really do. I like that.
Good.
Well,
I'll give credit then. It's to my friend Lina Orlando. So I want people to know that I'm not just taking it.
I was going to ask you, who was that? You know, as a lover of words too, I love to play with words like that. The trance is ending. Okay. So all of you essentially have given gifts in these chapters of awareness. And, you know, I come from a 30-year background in healing and physical therapy and teaching people how to be awake in their body. Feeling is healing. Feeling is an awareness practice. Understanding the way that you feel, the thoughts you're having, everything about what you're doing in the world is everything. It's important. It's where the magic starts. And you all give these beautiful gifts of awareness in your chapters. You're offering the reader a glimpse into your process, which is a gift. If you didn't know it already, I'm telling you what a gift it is. And again, you all wrote so beautifully in a way that they could have those gifts. So I kind of just want to know, you know, awareness looks different for everybody. We all wake up in the morning and we have a different way that we practice that works for us. So Patrick, I'm going to start with you for this one. What is one way your practice looks like in a day? Give us one idea.
So for me personally, I'm so sensitive to energy, everybody's energy around me, and then the energy of my guides. So it's always overwhelming, right? So I had to learn as an empath. This is what was taught to me through my angels years ago now. So when you're a healer, right, especially somebody who's by nature a giver and by nature somebody who wants to be nurturing to somebody else, there's a sense of awareness. We have to understand how energy works, right? And so when you're giving too much of yourself, you're going to feel depleted on a regular basis. I don't care what type of a healer you are. So what I learned with energy is that you're able to recycle it, right? You don't have to take on everybody else's energies around you, meaning the heaviness, the burdens, the hurt, the pain, and feel that like it's your own. But that's what tends to happen with healers by nature. You take on others' pain, you sort of absorb it, and are, you know, more or less able to release it on your own terms, whether that's through the water, through, you know, being out in nature, however you personally, you know, release energy. So for me, awareness comes in. I like to wake up. I like to go somewhere where there's some type of water, and I like to center myself. A lot of times it's how I connect with my guides. I'll sit down. A lot of times I just sit there in complete silence, And I go into what I would like to say is sort of like a meditative state, like in between worlds, where that's where I start, hearing clairaudient, hearing from my guides, getting messages, getting downloads. So awareness comes when you want to go on that type of spiritual journey. It comes through meditation, and it comes through self-awareness and being open and vulnerable. Because when you have a relationship with your spiritual guides, with your angels, with your guardian angels, with your ancestors, with your loved ones who have already passed over, they want to connect with you, right? They're constantly giving you signs. So that's another form of awareness. How are you communicating with those? Maybe your loved one comes to you in a dream and you're like, I don't know if that was real or not. Maybe your loved one starts leaving you coins, or starts leaving you, angel messages, or starts sending you, a hummingbird near your house. Awareness comes in so many different ways. So to me, I started living spirituality. That was what I wanted to achieve with the rest of my life. I wanted everything to be from a spiritual lens. So my awareness comes in between worlds, right? I love to channel messages for people. I like to read tarot cards. I like to connect with my guides and give people that clarity that, okay, your loved ones are still okay. They're there with you. You just don't hear them, right? But they're there. They're leaving you messages. And so awareness comes in a lot of different ways for me. It comes from how I live my life, going out in nature, taking a walk, inspiring others, climbing a mountain, whatever I want to achieve. I take that, but I also am aware enough to pass it on to others to inspire them to do the same. So the best way I like to explain it, I just want to live spirituality and inspire others to do that also. Thank
I
you.
love it. Okay, that was way more than one thing, but I'm going to give it to you. That was awesome. You're making me think about the water a lot. Water is a spiritual medium, right? And we have a joke in the writing community that all of the cool writing comes when you're in the shower. So you need one of those things you can write on the wall with the little crayons you can write in on the board in the shower. Will, how about you? What's one way you practice your awareness practice? I could have said the M word. I could have said meditation, but it scares people sometimes. So I think this is in so many different varieties, the way that we be in the present moment. How do you practice?
Well, I say yes, yes, yes to Patrick, and more yeses for all the things he described. But for me, shamanism taught me everything has energy. Psychodrama says it's embodied. Things can be embodied. And so it's like looking for the energy of life. And it can be on my back porch. It can be going down, 151 and seeing people walking on the side of the road. It can be found anywhere. It's just about opening eyes. Not just this eye, but the third eye, the heart eye. It's really important, I believe.
The heart eye. Say one more thing about that, because that's the first time I've heard someone put those two words together.
Well, for me, it's like looking through the eyes of the heart, the place of soulfulness and emotion, where messages come from. I've got all sorts of stuff up here from the culture, right? But in the heart, that's where I find the truth, and so I try to look through the heart eye for truth.
Yeah, I love that. The heart eye. I think that's a poem, Will. Thanks for that.
Okay.
Awesome. David, how about you? What's one of the ways you practice this walk of awareness?
Yeah, that's a good one, because I think technically speaking, I am an undiagnosed ADD or ADHD person. I tend to get distracted easily. And here I am almost 70 years old, and I don't think I've ever really said that out loud before, but I think it is true. So for me, it's about just trying to bring my attention back to the present moment, no matter what I'm doing. And that could be a formal state of meditation. It could be, just out walking my dog. It could be reading a book, listening to music. Music is one thing that really helps me to get present for sure. And yoga is another one that helps me to get present. I also, because I have COPD, I have started a very, very intense breathing practice that also helps me to get present. So those are the main things that I do. I mean, just walking my dog is like the most fun I have in a day, really. And I don't like people saying, really, walking your dog's the most fun you have? What a boring life. No, not at all. It is awesome. My dog is an amazing creature, and he's just an awesome friend. So yeah, that's all I can say about that right now. Thank you.
I love all of those answers. What kind of dog do you have?
Well, my dog is half poodle, half Aussie Shepherd. I guess the official name is Aussie Doodle, but I call him a Spoodle. And his name is Apollo.
Oh, Apollo. Thanks for being on the show, Apollo. I have a couple of dogs, and I would agree with you that that's a connection point. And I go at it with intention as much as I can in terms of just the eyes. Oh, the eyes of these lovable creatures, right? It's amazing. Guy, how about you? What's one of the ways you practice?
Well, certainly my writing and my visual artwork is the language in which I speak back to myself. It's a language in which reflects what's going on inside. But the primary thing I do, or more formal thing I do, is it's a practice called centering prayer. And centering prayer is similar, but not the same as meditation. Where meditation may be a singular focus on breathing or a mantra or a word. Centering prayer is wordless, and it's there's a little bit of a practice to it, but it's about breaking the chatter of the mind, or not having a central focus and going into a very inner silence. And there's more to it. Father Thomas Keating has a few books out on it, which is really good. But that's my daily practice. And I bring in a form of body prayer along with that. So that's my gift to myself for sure each morning. So thank you.
I love all of these suggestions, ideas, the ways you guys practice. Part of the mission here really is to help, wake people up to what's possible. Maybe there's something you haven't tried yet that could change everything. It could be that big of a deal with any one of the things you all mentioned. Of course, writing is one of mine as well. And I feel like as soon as I pick up the pen to the notebook, there's a connection that happens and the channel opens up, and it happens mighty furiously these days. It didn't always feel like that, but these connections and in the ways that you all described, people can connect. I think it does get more intense and better and more fun and more interesting as you practice. So I want to encourage everybody to take one of those on. I have a last juicy question, and you will all be like, really, you save this for last? Like, we could be here for 3 more days on this one, but so get ready. Okay. We're going to have to do the quickest version of the answer you guys can come up with. But Will, I'm going to start with you. Everyone in this project from its inception knew that it was important that we were doing an all-male author cast. And I have lots of reasons why I thought that was important. I know many of the authors do, Diana did, Scott did, but I'd really love to know from your perspective, why is this book important? An all-male author cast. What's going to come of this in your eyes, your heart eye?
Okay. It's kind of like a chorus. Of a chorus of men who have traveled a journey, and though they're they might have a different tone or a different range, but the message gathered together can be so very powerful and offers so many options for people. I've been in enough trainings where there've been 5 men in a group of 300 people, and there's no voice for the men in that kind of a place. So having a voice for men, I think, is so important right now to change the course of the world. And that's enough. I'll stop.
And it's enough because it's big, what you just said. Yes. And I think just It's the energy that has expanded when you all came together in the mission of this. For me, this is, we've talked about this in other interviews too, the expansion of that energy. So Will, I appreciate that answer. David, how about you? Why is this book important?
Well, that's a really, I think, you call it juicy, I call it challenging question. First of all, I want to say something. I think all human beings are absolutely amazing. I really do. I think we are just phenomenally wonderful, amazing, brilliant creatures. And I also think that our culture has created a kind of a, what's the word? A facade, a joke about how humanity shows up. And so we have got this really distorted view of men and women and how they're supposed to show up in the world and all the rest of it. I see in the world, I see lots of women trying to step up to fix that problem. I also see men trying to step up, but somehow they seem to be getting shut down. And one of my purposes in life is to try and empower more men into the kind of work that we're doing here, this personal growth work, this raising consciousness on the planet, this transcending, if you like, of all people, so we can move to the next level together. And if we don't have the men participating in that, then by not participating in it and not supporting it, then we're actually pulling it down. So I think we have a job as people who have already started the process of waking up, of ending the trance, so to speak. We have a responsibility to share this message and encourage other men and women, of course, too. But I think the men really, really need the support right now. So I think this book is a major step in that direction. I think the more people who read this book, especially men, the more we're going to see a transition into greater male awareness and greater movement away from the macho look to the true, vulnerable, honest, beautiful man that all of us can be.
Well said. Thank you for that. I agree with you so wholeheartedly. I'm so excited for people to read this book. Guy, how about you? When you think about this, it's not like the titles that we've published before this one, that some of them have been all female author casts, but I often get a comment like, oh, when are you going to have men in your books? I've had several men in the books. Most of our titles are co-ed. And I think that that's very important, that they be diverse in every possible way, every way, not just male, female. But there was something about this one, and it just felt like, wow, it's about time that we did this. So Guy, how about you? How are you feeling about this topic?
Well, if I can wander upon some treacherous waters here, hopefully it offends no one. I sense a lot of anger in women in what they express over the media, and as though men are the cause, men are their abusers, men are their oppressors, men are the reason why they have been subordinated. And I give credit and give blame where it's due. But at the same time, what I think, at least how I felt about the writing this book about male authors and writings, why I think it's as the book and the writings and the stories are as important or valuable to women as it is to other men, for this reason, is that it's not only women or females who have been forced to conform to cultural values, whether they be patriarchal or matriarchal. It's not just the men who have power. Women have power. They have their own power. They always did. And it's not just men. It's not just women who have been abused or forced to conform by culture or by family circumstances. Most every male has had the same pressures put on them. And I think that's what the stories in these books can, what they communicate to the women. It's not just the women who had these pressures from childhood through adulthood that have been difficult and challenging and oppressive. The males, the men have the same pressures. There's a high overlap in this, and it doesn't say much. And I think it ties back to what David was saying. It's kind of like, it doesn't say much about humanity and how it's not about one gender oppressing the other gender. Both genders experience the same archetypes. And if we're going to advance as a humanity, men and women, male and female, have to come together and exert their own form of power and assert it in a life-giving way, not one at the expense of the other. And I think that's what our stories, male stories, offer women who read the book. So it's my walk on treacherous waters there.
I'm grateful for you for going there and talking about it. I think when we have the conversations, then it opens up an opportunity to think about it and to talk more about it and come together as souls, all of us. So thank you. Patrick, you are going to close us out today. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, sure. So for me, I think we can all kind of come to an agreement that the meaning of life is love. And so this oppression that we're going through, it's on a universal level. It's not just a gender issue. I think we can all, as adults, as educated and as enlightened people, come to that agreement. The meaning of life is love. So with this book, I wanted that to be a portrayal. I wanted to be able to contribute to show that men go through hardships as well, and at some point we need to kind of breach this gap of the way that it's been through childhood with separating, male versus female in the form of, okay, we're going to make this child hardened or tough or over masculine because they're a boy. And then to make them grow up in that way and not show them that it's okay to be vulnerable and loving and to express emotions and to be open-hearted, but then to make them sort of a patriarchal figure to, be the person that's going to be the protector of the family. There needs to be a balance there. And I think that's where we're all kind of getting at, the fact that it's not a gender issue. It's the fact that there needs to be more of a universal giving of love and nature to children. And if we can all come to that realization that childhood is very difficult, but if that childhood is going to lead to, adults being more loving and kind individuals, why not be overgiving when it comes to love to children? Because it's going to give them an opportunity to grow up and be expressive and expansive in a way that we didn't have the opportunities for most people that were part of this project or any other project for that matter. So I feel like this was important to show the vulnerability of men, but also to bring us to that awareness that we need to be more loving, one to ourselves, and then how we express that love to others. And I think we all came to that in our own way, in our own set of circumstances and our own values and our own journey in life. So I'm just grateful to be a part of this project, and I'm thankful to be able to have this voice and to express my ideas and hopefully impact others, in the near future and down the road as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank all of you. Truly, authors, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone. Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
So you guys, one really cool thing as we wrap up today that I get to announce is that this book project is going to give back. And one of our authors, Dan Gorbanow, is the founder of the Seven Feathers Society. It's an organization dedicated to spirit-based recovery. And for our first quarter launch royalties, we're going to be donating 10% to the Seven Feathers Society. So when you get out and purchase this book, just realized you're going to be part of that giving back. And it was one of my greatest goals of my company, honestly, to get to the point where I could start giving back like that. So it's really exciting for me to be able to say that we're going to be doing this with Find Your Voice, Save Your Life for Transcendent Men, Real Stories. And if you're ready to join us, we're going to have a live stream book launch party on August 5th, 12 noon Eastern. I'm going to be gathering with all of the authors, and we'll be doing some fun giveaways that day. You can find us on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page. I've got you hooked up down below with that, and Seven Feathers websites. And I know for sure that one of these authors may have said something to you today that just, I don't know, lit the light, like fired the spark, gave you the goosebumps, gave you a way to think about something that you hadn't thought about before. So I have all of these guys hooked up down below with their sites and links. Please scroll on down and take the journey. Give them a click, explore the awesomeness that they are up to in the world, because it is big. And I can't wait to hear about that journey of yours. If you're listening to this after August 5th, well, that means you need to get over to Amazon and purchase your copy of the book. And lastly today, everyone, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it's time to be brave. See you next time, everyone. Bye, guys.
Bye.